Hey, what is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for clicking on the video. My name is NGS, and I am back once again for another collab video. Tonight, joining me, I've got my very good friend, Jamie, also known as FuturegohanSSj2. Say hello to the folks at home, Jamie.
So, dudes, good on.
Wagwan, Jamie. Wagwan, bro. So, y'all read the title, right? Today, we're going to be talking nothing but Batman, the Killing Joke. Yes, the latest installment of the DC animated universe. I think that's what the official title is called, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so the next film in the DCAU. It's actually been a movie that, funny enough, this film has been probably the most anticipated animated film probably in the last 15 years from DC.
Oh, yeah. Once it was announced, everyone was hyped as heck for this movie to come out, myself included.
Yeah, I remember we were reading like the reports from Mark Hamill, I think around the time of Arkham City or Arkham Knight, one of the last Batman games, where he was saying that, I'm retired from doing the Joker, but I'll come back. I'll come back if they ever do a Killing Joke movie. And that just fueled the rumor mill on, is DC going to do a Killing Joke movie? And then we got our proper announcement last year. The film came out in theaters for one day, and then it came out on Blu-ray the next day. Future Gohan and I both had the opportunity to check the movie out. I don't know if you saw it in theaters or not.
I did.
Okay, yes, you did. So we both saw it in theaters, and we
hmm
just really wanted to give y'all our thoughts about it. Considering it's for a movie that was so hyped and anticipated, man, it's pretty polarizing. I'll say that.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
It's just crazy. Like, you would think this one movie, amidst all the disappointment of Batman versus Superman, and the lukewarm response to Suicide Squad, you were thinking that Batman the Killing Joke would be the one that unifies everybody, that shows you that DC, even though they're floundering with their movies, they still have their animated department. And
But
well,
did it? That is the
wow.
question today.
Overall, as a whole, I don't know about Future Gohan here, but I was not too satisfied with the experience of Batman the Killing Joke. What about you, man?
Um, the first 30 minutes, I was not happy with. With that, same with everybody else, it was out of place. It made no sense. It connected nothing at all to the Killing Joke, and it just entirely, which we'll get into later. But
Yeah.
in my opinion, after that, I was perfectly entertained. Like I was entertained for the rest of the movie. I thought it was pretty decent.
Okay, yeah. So we definitely got some we're in agreement on some things, but we're also, I think we kind of
In
yeah,
disagreements.
we can disagree like once we get past that point, because even though this has been a story that I've wanted to see for the longest time, I left that theater just, I guess, to coin a popular phrase from a popular DC TV series, I was just whelmed. That's it. I was whelmed, man. I was whelmed. I left that theater wanting more, but it's so weird considering, in terms of it being an adaptation of the Killing Joke story, I think it was pretty spot on.
Oh,
Like,
me too.
like in terms of seeing what was happening on screen, I was like, okay, yeah, so they did that, they did that, they did that. They didn't go out of their way to change things for any particular reason. Like, if you've read the Killing Joke story and you watch the movie, it's pretty much right there with a few exceptions. But I guess more so than anything, I left deconstructing the Killing Joke story and realizing that it honestly was not as good as I remembered.
The story itself.
The story itself, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna let you talk for a bit because I've been talking for a while. I want to hear what you thought about the actual content itself.
I mean, I actually never really thought of that when I was watching the movie. Like, I wasn't really. That's a good point. Because for some reason, the entire time I was watching the movie, I wasn't really focusing on the story itself. I was really just kind of focusing on, oh yeah, that was in the comic. Oh yeah, that was taken straight out of the comic. They did a great job there. Oh yeah, that was awesome. That was right out of the comic. But I wasn't actually like watching it and being like, oh well, the story went this way, blah blah blah. Just because I already know the story and I've known the story ever since I read it a few years ago. So I mean, I wasn't really like looking at it like that, but that's an interesting way to look at it though. Um, I really liked everything in the Killing Joke portion of the movie only because I'm such a big fan of the original, and I'm such a big fan of Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And Mark Hamill was great.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Conroy, I love him, but for some reason, in some of the scenes in this movie, it just kind of felt like he was calling it in. I don't really know if that was just me, but when I was watching him in some scenes, it just kind of felt like a lot of his dialogue fell flat. Like he wasn't really, giving
Giving it
as much as he
110%.
should.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think more than anything, I agree with you on that point because I left and I was just like, oh, it's Kevin Conroy, great, awesome, but I left out of there thinking, wow, it's just another Kevin Conroy Batman appearance. I think maybe because he's gotten so used to the role and it's just kind of second nature, but also to counter that point, I think that it's because this isn't necessarily a story about Batman. Like if you look at Kevin Conroy's other performances in the TV series and the movies, you can tell when he's giving great performances. But here, he doesn't really have a lot of good lines to go like, "Oh my God, that was awesome." I think it's more of a Mark Hamill scene than anything else.
Oh, true, because this story, as the creators of the movie know, this story is a Batgirl story. This isn't a Batman or Joker story. This is about Batgirl. It's about her internal struggles as a woman.
Yeah,
And
yeah. That's a perfect segue into talking about this intro. So when we learned that they were doing the Killing Joke movie, everyone got excited, but we learned very late into production that they were actually including a prologue, something that wasn't in the original comic, but it was going to be focusing on a character who appeared in the Killing Joke, with that character being Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl. And you would think to yourself that, okay, why are they doing this? They're probably doing this because they want to give more character development to Batgirl, because when what happens in Killing Joke happens to her, they want to make you feel for her. Because, like, let's be honest, if you're reading The Killing Joke and you have no idea who these characters are, let alone Batgirl, when she gets shot, it's just like, oh. But if you knew about Batgirl and everything leading up to that in that story, in that self-contained story, you would have been like, "Oh, snap, that's pretty ballsy." So I was on board for the idea until I saw how it was executed. Honestly, dude, after seeing that, part of me just think for two reasons. Number one, obviously they wanted to get it like increase the length of the movie so they can get a theatrical runtime. And two, because Bruce Timm has got this sick fantasy going on with Batman and wanting him to bone every single female in this universe, man. It's pretty weird, and I'm sure if y'all have seen the movie, you know what happens. Basically, Barbara Gordon and Bruce Wayne knock boots on the roof, and the thing is that it's so friggin' out of place, and it literally the entire 30 minutes that this prologue is, it comes off as a high school girl having her very first crush, and she doesn't know how to react with everything. It's literally cringe. Like, it added nothing to the movie. If anything, it detracts from the overall experience, because this is what you're supposed to sit through for half an hour. And I felt like they could have just cut this entire segment out whatsoever, and it would not have made a difference. It didn't make a difference in the movie. Like, you didn't care one bit for Barbara Gordon when she got shot in this. So it's like, what the heck's the point?
yeah, like it really felt unnecessary. Though I did hear that this beginning part of the movie was actually loosely based on a Batgirl special issue that was supposed to, in a way, from what I heard, tie into the Killing Joke story. I don't know how true that is, but that's just what I heard. So I guess if that's why they chose this type of a scene to be the prologue, there's some kind of a defense there, but there's still no defense for the fact that the Batman Batgirl sex, I'm pretty sure, never happened in that issue, and there's just still a whole bunch. There's still the fact that it didn't connect at all to the Killing Joke.
Not at all. Not once. It felt so weird.
In fact, whenever I buy the Blu-ray, I'm probably never going to watch that part of the film again. Like, I'm probably just going to fast forward. In fact, I'm sure if instead of hitting play movie, if you just go to scene selection, I'm sure there's an option that starts right there. So, I mean, I'll just be like, okay, yeah, scene number 4. Okay, there we go.
There you go. Batman, the Killing Joke.
Right.
So if you're watching the movie and you can get over that bit, I think you'll find some enjoyment out of it, because, like I said, this movie more than anything, I don't think it could stand on its own without the help of the voice actors. But I want to go back to the original point that I was making on how like I was sort of deconstructing this movie as I was watching it. You know, what's the one thing that people like take away from The Killing Joke more than anything? They take away that all it takes is one bad day. All it takes is one bad day for a person to become the Joker, right? And that's what makes him and Batman so different but yet alike at the same time, because they could very well be in some realities the same person except donning different disguises. And you know, there's a very philosophical comparison you can make with both of them. But the whole thing about The Killing Joke is that, oh, it's just one bad day can turn a person evil and everything. I feel like this sort of story has been done before in the Batman mediums. If anything, in some cases it's been done better, you know? One story in particular came way after The Killing Joke, and it really was expanded upon with the animated movie, Batman Under the Red Hood. That tackled the concept that, you know, Batman and some of his villains are really equal at the end of the day. Like, some of them just go about doing things in different ways, especially with Red Hood, also known as Jason Todd. You know, like, we're the same thing, we're just going about it different ways. And it really showed like the dichotomy of both characters in those situations, and how regardless of what he's going through, Batman can't put himself in the position where he would ever, you know, straight up start executing people, unless he's directed by Zack Snyder. I don't know, that's something else. That's something else. But yeah, like I watched Batman Under the Red Hood and I saw like the deep meanings in that, and then I went to The Killing Joke and I'm just like, okay, I guess this is
In my own personal opinion, I think that Under the Red Hood is a better movie than The Killing Joke.
Yeah,
because it tackles so much more in terms of just a lot of things that make you think.
right.
And this stuff makes you think too, but it's just nowhere near as much as that, because you get because in the Killing Joke you get the conflict between Batman and Joker. In Under the Red Hood, you get the conflict between Batman and Robin, between Robin and Joker, between Robin and Batman, Batman and Ra's al Ghul. It's not that Killing Joke didn't tackle what it needed to. It did, but I'm just saying that I would think that Under the Red Hood is a better film.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. And I think what some people on Twitter were talking to me about this, like, people have had this realization for the longest time that, yeah, Killing Joke, it's a decent story, but I think it's overhyped because it was sold on that controversy, you know, like, oh my God, look what they did to this famous Batman character, you know. And I think that's part of the reason why. And then I've heard reports that even the guy who wrote it is not a big fan of it. But then again, he hates everything he's done.
Alan Moore, yeah.
Yeah, he hates everything he's done before. So it's kind of like, it's like, oh, I did this, I'm proud of it. 20 years later, I hate what I did. Forget it.
So to somewhat transition this review, since we did just talk about Under the Red Hood,
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect example for the next topic. The animation in The Killing Joke was surprisingly subpar compared to the rest of the DCU films, because Under the Red Hood came out, what, 2009, I think?
2010, right? If I remember correctly.
2010. 5 years ago. Holy crap, the choreography and fight scenes, the overarching, just all just looks great. And then you've got Batman Year One, which came out a few years later. My God, another beautiful looking movie, beautiful choreography, fight scenes.
Right.
And then you have this one. Like, I get with the art style, at least the art style was trying to capture Alan Moore's, and that's fine. But the animation itself was really stiff, was really awkward. The choreography and fight scenes was weird too. It just didn't look good.
Yeah, I mean, there were even some scenes that, well, people are deconstructing it now because they have the Blu-ray. There are people who are looking back on certain scenes and they're like, wow, that's really, really rushed. Like, honestly, I don't think it's the art style per se that's a problem, because it's not straight up Alan Moore. They mixed Alan Moore with a lot of other things. I watched like the behind the scenes, and they tried to capture like Alan Moore mixed with other stuff on animation, all that. It was weird, but like, I agree that the animation looks very, very subpar, especially for a feature length. I'm putting my hands up in quotations, Jamie. A feature length film. You would think that this had a lot more development. And you know what the sad part is that I remember I was talking to some people on Twitter about this. They were saying that, yeah, the animation looks bad, and I was thinking to myself that, oh, you know, it's probably really early on. This is a sneak peek, low quality. And then when you finally see the movie, it's like, wow, not much has changed.
Yeah, and someone I was actually talking to Anime AJ, one of the guys from Kanzenshu on Twitter, and he was sharing his thoughts on the movie, and he brought up some really good animation points because I always viewed The Killing Joke, at least this animated movie, as almost maybe like a spiritual sequel to Batman the Animated Series, actually comparing the film and the show, and what the show did with animation by using, those dark palette colors and all those different things was beautiful. And Killing Joke uses none of that. Like none of that is there. It uses poor CGI. Like remember those police cars at the
Oh
beginning?
man, I
That
completely
was
forgot about
horribly
that.
animated.
Jeez.
Horribly animated. In fact, police cars were animated in CGI in previous installments, like in Batman Year One, looked a million times better than in this movie. Like it literally looked like it was still in the pre-alpha stage of animation. Like it
Yeah.
was horrible looking, and just thought that it could have been, considering the project they were working on,
Right.
much better.
Yeah, I think considering the project they were working on, the talent they had at their disposal, how people like when you talk about stories that people want adapted, this is the one. This is the one that everyone's wanted to see. And honestly, I think that DC saw that, Warner Brothers saw that, and they just went the cash grab approach. Like, oh, y'all want this Killing Joke movie? Okay, let's get it done as soon as possible and for as cheap as possible. Which, even if I have various thoughts about the story that don't line up with other people, I think that's still a disservice to this story, especially considering what people wanted this to be and what we ended up getting. What about you?
That's actually a really good point because that's actually a whole thing in marketing. Like, for example, if you look at a movie like Batman Year One or Under the Red Hood,
Yeah.
nowhere near as popular as Killing Joke,
Oh
right?
no.
But see, that's why they do that. They would put more money in animation and other things like that, making those films look good at the very least. So that way, even if people have never heard of them,
Right.
they'd buy it because they've heard good reviews, because the animation's good or because the style's good or whatever. This one, it's got the name Killing Joke. It could sell on its own, even if it was just pencil drawings, it could sell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure they were probably like, look, this is already pretty popular to buy this, so you don't really have to put that much work into it, which sucks, but I mean, that's marketing.
But yeah, it's pretty depressing overall that this had to happen, and it kind of, I don't want to say it paints a dark picture on the future of DC animated movies, because let's be honest, like even though DC has not been doing well in their live action film department, we always had the animated films to fall back on. And honestly, once they hit the new 52 with Flashpoint, I don't really think I can say the same. Like even some of their best ones recently have not been that great. If you compare it to, like I said, Mask of the Phantasm, Under the Red Hood, some of the stuff from Green Lantern, it just doesn't compare. And I was really hoping that Killing Joke would be the one that kind of turns it around and shows us that, hey, we still got talented people around. But I think, DC does need a cleanse, if you will, of people.
No, I totally agree because after, like, I didn't even think Flashpoint was that good, to be honest with you. But after, I think, what was the last one I really enjoyed? I think
The last one I
Year
enjoyed
One,
was Justice League War. That came out, I think, 2013?
the first New 52 one, right?
Yeah, right after Flashpoint. Literally right after Flashpoint.
That one I haven't seen. The last good one I saw was Superman Unbound, the one that was based off Superman Brainiac.
That
was
ago.
really good. Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
Every other one I've seen so far, like they're trying to build Batman and Damian Wayne up in the current animation film universe so much. All of those have been pretty much misses for me instead of hits. But maybe we'll see. We'll see. Okay, I say maybe we'll see it go in a better direction, but then I've seen the trailer for Justice League Dark, and they threw Batman in there because DC can't seem to do anything anymore without Batman.
Yeah, unfortunately. So it's honestly, you can have a discussion about this till the end of time, which honestly, if y'all are interested in us sitting down, shooting the shit and talking about DC movies for 40 minutes, just let us know and we will totally do that. But yeah, any last closing comments on The Killing Joke?
Animation not as good as I wish it was. The first 30 minutes will only be seen by me one time, and that one time was when I saw it in the theater, because every other time I will be skipping it. The rest of the movie, very entertaining. Like, if you have friends I would totally sit them down and show them The Killing Joke just because it's a good story. It's a great Batman story. It's a great way to start on the franchise. But yeah, I give it maybe a 7 out of 10.
Okay, all right, that seems reasonable. Anyway, signing off for our Future Gohan SSJ2. My name is NGS, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.
Bye bye.